Hi students, welcome to checkpoint 2. We are going to be completing notes on Introduction to Rhetoric. And so you have guided notes below to fill in and they'll go along with this video. So let's go ahead and get started. I will open my presentation. So in this video, some of this might be brand new, some of this might be review. We're going to be going over the rhetorical triangle, soapst, not just soap, soapst, and then ethos, pathos, and logos. So let's check these things out. So what is the purpose of each of these tools? The rhetorical triangle helps us understand how the speaker or the persona, which is the way the speaker portrays themselves to the public. So for instance, someone who is a TV personality is going to behave very differently on TV than they do in the comfort of their own home. And so that's the difference. So the speaker persona, the audience, topic, and context must complement one another for a writing to be successful. So the rhetorical triangle is about how these components work together to achieve a successful piece of writing or a successful speech. For soaps or soapst, that helps us identify what tone we should use when making the claim for our argument. And then the rhetorical modes guides us in how to create our intended tone so as to use emotion, authority, and logic to convince our audiences. So all of these essentially work together in order to help you as a writer achieve a successful piece of work. Similarly, these three tools help us analyze why successful writings are as successful as they are. Or actually, we could also use them to analyze why a writing is unsuccessful because some of these things would be done incorrectly. So let's move on and actually take a look at them. So this is what the rhetorical triangle looks like. It's a triangle and it includes the speaker, audience, subject, the media that is used to create it, and then the overall context. So let's look at this in action to help us better understand it. So I'm going to have three writings about bacon, and we're going to see how it creates different rhetorical triangles. So in our first piece, it reads, "Some may question whether National Bacon Day is even a real holiday, but bacon lovers mostly agree that any excuse to eat some bacon is a good one, and there is certainly no shortage of ways to enjoy it. One popular food truck in San Francisco, appropriately called Bacon Bacon, became so popular from selling items from their bacon-centric menu on the streets of the city that they now have a permanent location. Their bacon breakfast burritos," check out that alliteration, "are amazing." And so what I'd like for you to consider and also fill out in your notes is, who do you think the speaker of this piece is? What do you think the audience of this piece is intended to be? What is the subject? And with these in mind, where do you think this was published? What was the medium? And also, therefore, what was the context? So what do you think it is? So where this came from was actually a blog. So the speaker is a blogger, somebody who, oh wait, actually, I think I did something fancy. Oh, I did do something fancy. I forgot for a minute. So this is going to open up actually where I got it from. And so this is from a blog called National Bacon Day. And so we have this blogger who blogs specifically about bacon. It's very exciting. I mean, they're clearly living their life well. And so the speaker is a blogger. The audience is a general audience who appreciates bacon, but it's the idea that it's not going to be so sophisticated that anyone can't hop onto the internet and understand what they're saying. And one thing that might help you with a general audience, a lot of times when students think about a general audience, they think about somebody who has kind of like a better reading level than them, but you guys actually have a higher reading level than a general audience. A general audience has about a 7th grade reading level. When people leave school, their reading levels actually tend to decrease because of how little reading they do. So a general audience reads at a 7th grade reading level, so keep that in mind. So the audience is a general audience, anyone who could hop on and understand this. And the subject is bacon, particularly National Bacon Day, the consumption of bacon. That's what it's focusing on. The medium is a blog, and therefore the context of all of this is to promote the love of bacon with other bacon lovers. All right. Let's continue to another example and see how this one is different, how the components come together to form a very different kind of writing. So this one reads, a feeding trial has been carried out with 64 individually fed large white pigs offered 8 different diets prepared at 4 energy levels and 2 levels of crude protein. A record was maintained of the rate of the live weight gain, and food was given at a defined restricted level. Carcass quality, sorry, I'm a bit of a vegetarian, this is a little rough for me. Carcass quality was assessed by a procedure of complete dissection into visible fat, lean, etc. Why did I do this to myself? Though differences in the rates of live weight gain and food conversions efficiency were not statistically significant. The best performance was reported when the diets contained 16% crude protein and yielded the equivalent of 2,950 kilograms digestible energy per kilogram upon oxidation. The energy lysine ratio, okay, we're going to stop there. You get the point. So this is clearly a very different writing than our previous writing, and that's because the speaker and the audience differs significantly. So where do you think this came from? Think about it. Who's the speaker? Who's the audience? What's the subject? What's the medium? What's the context? It is a scholarly journal, specifically from the Journal of Agricultural Sciences. So our speaker is D.W. Robinson and D. Lewis, who are researchers, specifically within agricultural sciences, and they've gotten their piece published. Very exciting for them. And so those are our speaker. The audience, we can tell, is going to be an audience who also has a degree or at least a significant amount of knowledge within agricultural sciences. They're using terminology, concepts, without really thoroughly explaining them, because the assumption is that their audience already knows how it works. And therefore, the subject is also bacon, but from a very different perspective. It's essentially about how to create the best tasting bacon in a very sciencey way. And therefore, the medium is a journal, a scholarly journal, and the context is about essentially how to produce the best tasting bacon. But because of the audience speaker and the medium, this is done in a very scientific way. All right, let's take a look at one more. So let's give this one a read. I never feel like I get enough bacon at breakfast. It's like they're rationing it. Here's your 2 strips of bacon. Whenever you're at a brunch buffet and you see that big metal tray filled with the 4,000 pieces of bacon, don't you almost expect a rainbow to be coming out of it? That bacon tray is always at the end of the buffet. You regret all the stuff on your plate. What am I doing with all this worthless fruit? I would eat only bacon, but you can't only eat bacon because it's terrible for you. You know bacon's bad when a healthier choice is a donut. Bacon's like the opposite of medicine. So go ahead and consider, who might the speaker be? Who might the audience be? The subject, the medium, the context. What do you think it is? So the answer is, this is actually taken from a comedy sketch.
What makes breakfast in bed so special is you're lying down and eating bacon.
By Jim Gaffigan. And so he's a comedy sketch about bacon. And so that's where I took this from. And so this speaker is a comedian. The audience is likely, usually when you have these comedy sketches, the audience is an adult audience, though sometimes people take their kids. And the subject is, again, how delicious bacon is. But it has a very different tone to it than the other 3 pieces. Our first one was very casual and accessible. Our second one was very scientific and elevated. This one is very funny. It has a really kind of cheeky tone to it. And so the medium is stand-up comedy. And the context, the purpose of it is essentially to make an audience laugh about their shared desire to eat bacon all the time and the knowledge that they can't. And so that's how rhetorical triangles operate. They help you break down why is it that this writing is so different from this writing. When we read these three things together, we know they're different, but we might have difficulties explaining why they're different. And the rhetorical triangles give us the language and the approach to explain why these pieces differ so greatly. And this is going to come into play and be very important when you're writing about your speeches and you're looking for language and ways to explain why the speech was written the way that it was. All right, we got 4.5 minutes to get through the rest of this, so let's get going. So SOAP serves a very similar purpose, but it has some additional aspects to it. So SOAP stands for subject. What is the subject of the piece? The occasion, what's happening historically around it that makes it relevant at this time. The audience, we already know that one. The purpose, that makes sense. The speaker, that makes sense. And all of this leads to tone. So when we consider these things together, if we're going to have a successful writing, we want to make sure that the tone is appropriate. If we have an inappropriate tone, then it's not going to successfully achieve persuasion of the audience. And so, for instance, when we look at this comedy sketch, the tone is supposed to be comedic. If you hopped up on a comedy stage and you told a very, very sad story, your audience might become uncomfortable. That's not why they're there. There's actually a lot of exceptions to this. I've watched some comedy sketches where the comedians get very serious. I've seen that, for instance, done by Dave Chappelle, and it's very successful. But that's a very talented comedian who oftentimes is also a storyteller, which I could then use when I'm talking about my soaps and breaking down the tone, that Dave Chappelle has shifted from a comedic tone to a storytelling tone because the purpose differs and the occasion differs. If the occasion is a serious occasion, for instance, when he was talking about the murder of George Floyd, that is a very serious occasion, and therefore his tone is going to change to a storytelling tone, and a tone of, if you've seen the sketch I'm talking about, anger, because he's seeking to achieve a very different purpose. And so this SOAPs gives you the tools in order to be able to describe those kind of things, which is really cool and very useful. So now we have these three instances of ethos, pathos, logos. So I'm going to have to go through this pretty quickly because we only have a little time left. So if you'll go ahead and give a pause to the video and read this yourself, that'll save us a little time. So go ahead and give this a read. And now that you've given it a read, consider whether the primary tool in this is pathos, logos, or ethos. It is pathos. So essentially the author is evoking emotion from her readers in order to make her persuasive point about the zebra killer. And so when she says things like, the tighter the knot got in my stomach instinctively, but I wasn't prepared, when she describes what happened to her son, the story of the individual, the descriptions of how she felt, the kind of the foreboding feeling here, all of those things deal with pathos, evoking emotion from the readers. Now let's go and look at example number 3. We skipped number 1, we'll backtrack. Go ahead and pause and read example number 3 and think about whether this is ethos, pathos, or logos. So now that you've read this, which of the rhetorical modes do you think it's using? It's definitely logos. So we see here that the author makes his primary claim, and he supports that primary claim then with subclaims that support his logical reasoning. And so we see logos there, which means that if we backtrack to, where is example 1? It's not in here. Well, the other example was going to be ethos, but it's okay, we're out of time, so you can skip that part in your notes and we'll talk about it later. All right, thanks for joining me for this video. I hope that it was helpful in giving you some terminology in which you can use to analyze your speeches later on in this unit. All right, bye.